part of the reason Jauan Jennings came out before training camp with this contract demand. He's got the 49ers in a bad position because he is the only real veteran wide receiver that you can count on in week one.
Jauan Jennings wants a new contract or he wants to be traded. This is now becoming kind of an annual 49ers receiver thing. I know it irritates 49er fans to keep hearing about this. How do you view this? Do you think this is problematic, or do you think this is just destined to be settled pretty soon?
I mean, I view this as Jauan Jennings and his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, watching what happened with Brandon Aiyuk last year. And I don't know whether it was you who asked this question, but somebody early on in training camp asked, would you rather have a hold in or a hold out? And Kyle Shanahan said, hold in. You know, the guy's there. He's part of the, the culture. He's at the team meetings, et cetera, et cetera. But by the end of the summer, I think he changed his tune on that. Yes. The hold in is a much bigger distraction because the guy's on the field, on the sideline, playing it up for the cameras. I don't know if Jauan Jennings would do that. He's a different cat. I'm not exactly sure how he would react to that situation. But, the 49ers basically created this themselves by having these big dramatic issues with their wide receivers and then ending up paying the guys in the end.
Yeah, I think that was Mike Silver who asked that question, not myself. You want to make that clear, but it's a great question. It's different because, Aiyuk was in it for that, right? He had done the whole social media campaign before holding in at camp. He's not a guy who always talks to the media, but he does it through other ways. He communicates this passive-aggressive thing, and I don't think Jauan is like that. Now, we'll see. It could end up like that, or we could interpret things like that. But I don't think it's going to be that long, late walk across in front of the media to bro hug Shanahan. That's the stuff that the 49ers hated. They hated that. They knew what it meant. They knew that he was playing it up. Aiyuk was playing up for the media, trying to get more pressure, more and more pressure. And they did succumb at the end. They did pay him every dollar that he wanted, maybe even more at the end. I don't know what they'll do with Jennings. And you make a great point. This is what they set up by having these late deals and by capitulating to Bosa and to Aiyuk and in some ways to other players. I'll turn the other way. If you're Jauan Jennings, you're also saying, you guys cut people when the guaranteed money is low. I better get as much guaranteed money as I can. When you cut Eric Armstead, when you cut Leonard Floyd, when you cut Juszczyk once and then bring him back, when you cut other guys, I keep making this point. It's about the guarantee. I don't always know that fans get this point, but when you see the litany of names that the 49ers have cut with years left on their contract, it's that trying to get rid of players before they have to pay them because the full value is not guaranteed. Trading Debo, same situation. Get out of that money. They take a dead cap hit, but they also get out of the money that they were going to end up having to pay him on a salary, not a guaranteed basis. So why wouldn't you pay him 15? Do you think there's a number there they won't go to 20, 22? I don't know. But he does have leverage. He's the only good, healthy, non-suspended receiver on the roster right now. No idea if Ricky Pearsall is going to be able to get through a camp. No idea if he's good. Even then, you would want another receiver. If Jauan Jennings is not playing or not, let's say he's not practicing day one, who are your starting two receivers, Matt Barrows?
Well, your starting two receivers in practice are DeMarcus Robinson and Ricky Pearsall. You just gave the caveat on Pearsall. The caveat on DeMarcus Robinson is that he may be starting in practice, but he may not be starting in Seattle in week one because of the suspension that's looming in his DUI case. He pleaded no contest to that a couple of weeks ago. I would assume now that it's resolved in the judicial system, it starts to get resolved in the NFL system. The 49ers are bracing themselves for a suspension. I think it would be almost unexpected if he doesn't get one at this point. Again, pleaded no contest to the charge. It's a big deal. You hit the nail on the head. This is part of the reason Jauan Jennings kind of came out before training camp with this contract demand. He's got the 49ers in a bad position because he is the only real veteran wide receiver that you can count on in week one. And he was their leading wide receiver, just shy of 1,000 yards. Everybody remembers the Rams game in Los Angeles. He was not their leading receiver, however. That title went to George Kittle, both in yards and in touchdowns. So you would still have Kittle as an option. Your wide receivers for the second straight year would be problematic. And in a season where you extended Brock Purdy, you want all the possible receivers at his disposal. And he's got
point out.
Or with Jennings, we saw that last year. He's not shy about throwing to Jennings, even when Jennings is well covered, because he trusts that Jennings, as strong and as kind of long as he is going to come down with the ball, and he usually does.
Yeah, but your point, obviously, Brandon Aiyuk is coming back from his injury. Who knows exactly when he'll be back? I think Mayoko reported that it seems like he might be on track, maybe even to practice in training camp. Would have to see it. So you have to get through multiple practices, but maybe he's back in the first month. Maybe I would say towards the back end of that. And the interesting thing is Jauan Jennings right now is probably worth $20 million to the 49ers right now. By the middle of the season, he's probably not worth $20 million. He's a third receiver, maybe a second receiver, good one, but not a one receiver. And you pay receivers at the top of the line, you pay him 25, 30, 35, whatever Justin Jefferson is making now. But beyond that, you don't necessarily pay number two receivers $20 million. T. Higgins, the one maybe, but it's just an interesting moment. It's an interesting moment for foreigners. Like, they've gotten rid of a lot of players. They got rid of Debo. Like they have shown that they're not exactly going for the Super Bowl this year. I've kept saying it, and people get mad at me, but like you get rid of players who have proven it for you. You're not exactly putting the best lineup together that you can. Understand if you want to save some money. Jauan Jennings saying, "Do you want to win right now? We want to win those first 6 games? You might want me in there, and I would be worth it." So it's an interesting point. I'll throw this one out there too. It just kind of struck me when I was looking at people going through the team saying what their number one newcomer was for every team. Guess which one it is for the Rams? Davante Adams. Who did get a call from the 49ers. Your colleague Mike Silver quoted him fantastically saying, "They told me they're offering wholesale, not retail, whatever that was." He didn't sign for huge money with the Rams. Wouldn't Davante Adams at like $20 million look really good on the 49ers right now, Barrows? And then you have him to be the 2 alongside Aiyuk when Aiyuk is early, or code number 1. Like, there's some decisions that were made, and I understood that one, but when your division rivals are the one who picks him up and just replaces Cooper Kupp right there with Davante Adams, and you don't, and you are looking at the potential of I don't even know who Jacob Cowing would be their next receiver in line. I am not entirely sure. Jordan Watkins, like, you're beginning to get really, really thin at receiver already in camp. And then we know, as I always say, there will be injuries in camp. There will be injuries in the season. And then what are you looking at? Like, this becomes a very dangerous situation for them. Even if Jennings is practicing, you're still going to say they're really thin at receiver.
Yeah. They're going to be thin at receiver until Aiyuk is back, and not just back, but back to Brandon Aiyuk levels. And remember, he held out all of the last summer and was not himself for at least, 6 weeks. He had a couple of big games towards the end before he got injured, but there certainly was a ramp-up period. He's going to need one this year as well. You mentioned the Rams. I mean, they did this so-called mini rebuild, this rebuild on the fly a couple of years ago, and they nailed it. I mean, they drafted really well. They signed all the right sort of mid-level free agents, and now they have the wherewithal, the ability to go out and bid for a guy like Davante Adams because they think that they're close, and it just kind of underscores your point. I mean, if you're shooting for a Super Bowl, you bid hard for Davante Adams. You don't tell Davante Adams, we're gonna try to sign you on the cheap. And then the Rams are in that position right now. The 49ers are not, and it'll be interesting to watch this season unfold. it always comes down to injuries and things like that. But right now, you would say that the Rams are set up a little bit better than the 49ers. And in fact, the 49ers are trying to duplicate what the Rams did. The Rams drafted very well along the defensive line. They've now got two kind of bookend defensive ends. They like their defensive tackles. And we'll see. They have all of their guys coming in. We're going to see Alfred Collins for the first time.
Are we? Are we?
Well, I mean, he was he signed his contract and he wasn't put on any sort of injury list. That can occur and might occur next week. I don't know, but he and Marquise Siegel, the quarterback Curtis Rourke, none of them practiced in the spring because they were coming off of injuries. I think Rourke is definitely going to go on NFI. I don't know about the other two, but I think it was a good sign that it wasn't sort of automatic that they did. Siegel, fifth rounder, interesting guy because, everything we've been saying about wide receiver also applies to safety. The 49ers don't consider it quite as important a position as wide receiver, but they've got some depth issues there due to Malik Mustafa's ACL issue.